You've stood on that tee box and watched a man 20 years older than you smoke his drive past yours, and you couldn't explain it. I know that exact feeling. It happened to me 3 summers ago on the ninth hole at my home club when a 79-year-old named Walt outdrove me by almost 30 yards with a driver that cost less than half of mine. Here's the truth. I've spent 3 years and thousands of dollars proving. The driver most senior golfers are sold is the single biggest reason they lose distance off the tee. Not their age, not their swing, the club, and I believe the opposite for a very long time, which is exactly why I can prove it to you now. By the end of this, I'm going to show you the launch monitor number that changed everything for me, the one spin figure that decides whether you carry the ball or watch it drop dead. I'll name the drivers I now avoid and the setup that added 25 yards for me. And if you already own your driver and don't want to spend another dime, stay with me because there's a free fix built right into the club in your bag. Let me take you back to that day with Walt because that's where my whole story cracked open. I remember standing there watching his ball just keep running, and I did what every proud golfer does. I blamed myself. I told myself I'd swung lazy, that I'd caught it thin, that I just needed to hit the gym or take another lesson. I had a driver in my hands that I'd paid nearly $600 for the previous spring. It was the newest model. It had the tour player's name attached to it, the low spin head, the sleek black crown, the shaft. Everybody at the shop said was the best on the market. I trusted every bit of that, and it was costing me yards on every single hole. What I didn't understand yet was that Walt wasn't stronger than me. His swing speed was actually slower than mine. I found that out later, and it wrecked everything I thought I knew. Because if he was swinging slower and still flying it past me, then the club in my hands wasn't helping me. It was fighting me, and I had paid a premium to be fought. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what I believed back then, because you might believe it right now, and I don't blame you one bit for it. For most of my golfing life, I thought distance came from three things: swing speed, the newest technology, and spending enough money to get the best of both. Every February, when the new drivers dropped, I was first in line. I'd read the reviews. I'd watch the launch videos where some young long hitter with a 115-mile-per-hour swing crushed it 330 yards and grinned into the camera, and I'd think, that's the club for me. If it does that for him, it'll help me. That was my first mistake. And it's the mistake the entire selling machine is built on, because that young man's results have almost nothing to do with yours or mine. I just didn't know it yet. So I want to walk you back through the flashbacks, one at a time, the same way the truth got revealed to me. And I promise you, each one tightens the knot a little more until the whole thing finally comes undone at the end. Let me start with the driver I trusted most and how it betrayed me. The spring before I met Walt, I walked into a big box golf store with my mind already made up. I wanted the new low spin driver, the one with the plus on the badge, the one built for tour players. In my head, low spin meant more distance. That's what I'd absorbed from years of marketing. Spin was the enemy. Spin was what made your ball balloon up and fall short. Get the spin down, get the ball boring through the wind, and you'd hit bombs. That was the gospel, and I'd swallowed it whole. The fitter, a nice kid, maybe 25 years old, put me on the launch monitor. I hit that low spin head, and I remember the number that came up because it looked so impressive on the screen. My spin rate was around 1,800 revolutions per minute. The kid nodded like that was gold. Low spin, just like the pros. He said, "That's a great number, sir." And I believed him because it matched everything I'd been told. What neither of us talked about was my carry distance. And that's the number that actually feeds your wallet and your ego. I was carrying that ball about 180 yards in the air. For a man swinging the driver around 85 miles per hour, that's leaving distance on the table by the truckload. But nobody showed me a comparison. Nobody put a different club in my hands. I walked out with the tour driver, proud as could be, $600 lighter. Now here's where I need to slow down, because this is the part that took me 2 years to understand. Low spin only helps you if you swing fast enough to launch the ball high on your own. A tour player swinging 110 miles per hour creates so much ball speed that low spin lets the ball climb and carry forever. But when you and I swing at 85, low spin does the exact opposite. The ball never gets up. It launches low, runs out of gas, and drops out of the sky like a wounded duck. I was carrying it 180 when I had the engine to carry it 205. I just had the wrong club bolted to that engine. And here's the part that started to make me angry. That low spin tour badge driver was the most expensive one in the store. It was the one they pushed hardest, put on the front display, gave the flashiest name. The club that was worst for a slower swing was the club they most wanted me to buy. That wasn't an accident, but I'll get to how deep that goes, because the spin problem was only the first layer. The second one was hiding inside the club in a place I never thought to look. Let me jump forward to the day I finally figured out why Walt was beating me, because it wasn't just spin, it was weight, and it was the one part of the driver nobody ever mentioned to me. After that round with Walt, I couldn't let it go. I asked him straight up what driver he played. He handed it to me right there on the tee, and the first thing I noticed the second I took it in my hands was that it felt like a toy. It felt almost weightless compared to mine. I actually laughed and said, "Walt, this thing feels like a kid's club." He just smiled and said, "That's why I can still swing it." I didn't understand it then, but that lightness was the whole secret. His shaft weighed about 50 grams. Mine weighed close to 70. 20 grams doesn't sound like much. It's about the weight of 4 quarters in your pocket. But when it's out at the end of a 45-inch lever that you're trying to swing as fast as you can, 20 grams is enormous. It was slowing my swing down without me even knowing it. I went and got tested again, but this time somewhere honest, an independent fitter who didn't sell me anything off a wall. He put me on the monitor with my heavy tour shaft and measured my swing speed. Then he handed me a driver with a lightweight senior flex shaft around 50 grams and had me swing that. My clubhead speed jumped almost 4 miles per hour. Same body, same swing, same effort, 4 miles per hour faster just from taking weight out of the shaft. And every mile per hour of clubhead speed is worth roughly 2 to 3 yards. Do that math. I'd been leaving 8, 10, 12 yards on the table with every drive because the shaft was too heavy for me. And here's the thing that made my stomach turn. The stiff, heavy shaft I'd been sold was described to me as the better shaft. More expensive, more premium. The lightweight senior shaft was talked about almost apologetically, like it was the one you settled for when you got old and weak. The language itself was designed to steer a proud man toward the club that would hurt him. Nobody says, "Sir, you should play the senior shaft." They say, "You'll probably want the stiff, you've got a strong swing, and your ego does the rest." That's when it clicked for me that this wasn't just bad advice. This was a system, and a system is only beatable if you can read it faster than it reads you. That's why I sat down and wrote the whole thing out. 3 books. Everything I learned the hard way about shaft, weight, flex, loft, and the numbers. A fitter checks but never volunteers. More than 360 pages of it. Far more than I can fit into one afternoon of talking. What this video is doing for your driver, those books do for the entire bag. Heroes, the 4-iron question, grip size, shoes, the tests you can run on your own home course on a Saturday, and the exact way to walk out of a fitting bay unsold when the numbers don't move. It's the long version of the same honesty you're getting right here for free. Written by me, for men swinging where you and I swing, not where the tour swings. If you want it, scan the QR code right there on your screen, link in the description, or the pinned comment. The collection is waiting, because once you see how the machine steers you, the next question is obvious. Who profits when you buy the wrong thing? A system that profits when you buy the wrong thing and profits again next year when the wrong thing doesn't work and you come back for the newest wrong thing. But even that wasn't the deepest part. The deepest part was the lie about the technology itself, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So let me ask you something. If the new driver every year is longer than last year's, and this has been true for the past 15 years, why aren't we all hitting the ball 50 yards farther than we did in 2010? Sit with that for a second, because the numbers don't add up. And when I finally chased them down, I found the thing the whole industry is quietly built on top of. There's a rule. It's set by the governing bodies of golf, the folks who write the rule book, and that rule limits how much energy a driver face can transfer to the ball. It's measured a couple of ways. One is called the coefficient of restitution, the trampoline effect of the face, and it's been capped at 0.83 since the early 2000s. The other is a measurement of how long the ball stays on the face, and it's capped too. Both numbers have been frozen for over 15 years. What that means in plain English is this: a legal driver from 2008 cannot transfer meaningfully less energy to the ball than a legal driver sold this year. The face can't legally be any hotter. It's against the rules. The maximum ball speed you can get from a driver at a given swing speed was locked down before some of you even took up the game. And the head size, the maximum driver head volume, 460 cubic centimeters, hasn't changed since 2004. 20 years. 2 decades of revolutionary new drivers, and the two things that matter most, face speed and head size, have been sitting at the exact same legal ceiling the entire time. When I read that, I felt like a fool because I had bought a new driver almost every single year, convinced each one was faster than the last, when the laws of golf made that flatly impossible. The ball could not physically be leaving the face any faster. I added it up once, close to $4,000 over a decade, chasing a number that was frozen by rule before I ever swiped my card. So where does the distance gains marketing come from? It comes from real things, but small things. Slightly better aerodynamics, so the head moves through the air a hair faster. Weight moved around inside the head to change launch and spin. And most of all, better fitting, matching the loft and the shaft to your swing. That last one is the only thing that ever actually helps a senior golfer. And you don't need a new club to get it. You can very often get it out of the club already in your bag, which is exactly what I want to talk to you about right now. Because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, this is all fine for a man who's about to go buy a new driver, but I just spent good money on mine and I'm not spending another dime. I hear you. I was you. So this next part is for you specifically, and it costs you nothing. Pick up your driver and look at the hosel, the part where the shaft meets the head. On almost every driver made in the last 12 years or so, there's an adjustable sleeve there with a little wrench that came in the box. Most golfers I know set it once or never touch it at all. That sleeve can change your loft, and loft is the free distance hiding in your bag. Here's what I want you to do. If your driver is set to 9 or 10.5 degrees and you swing under about 90 miles per hour, crank that loft up. Set it to its highest position, 12 degrees or more if it'll go there. I know every instinct in your body is screaming that more loft means higher, weaker, shorter shots. That's the same backwards thinking that cost me all those years. For a slower swing, more loft means more carry because it gets the ball into the air where it can actually fly instead of diving into the turf 40 yards short. When I did this to my own 2 heavy tour driver before I'd even replaced it, I picked up nearly 9 yards of carry on the launch monitor just from turning that sleeve. Free. It was already in the club. I had owned that distance the whole time and never claimed it because I was afraid of a number on a dial. There's a second free move too. Tee it higher. Most senior golfers tee the ball too low, a habit left over from persimmon drivers 50 years ago. Tee it so half the ball sits above the crown of the driver. That lets you catch it slightly on the upswing, which raises your launch and lowers your spin at the same time. Exactly the combination a slower swing needs. It costs you nothing but the courage to try it. Between higher loft and a higher tee, I've watched playing partners add 10 to 15 yards in a single afternoon without spending a cent. And if you're willing to spend just a little, not on a whole new driver, but on one part, get your heavy shaft swapped for a lighter one. A good club fitter can pull your current head and put a lightweight 50-gram senior shaft in it for a fraction of what a new driver costs. Same head you already trust. Same face you already paid for. Just an engine that finally matches your swing. That single change did more for me than any new driver ever had. But here's the thing. All of these fixes point back to one central truth, the truth I kept circling for 3 years. And I want to hand it to you now, complete the way I finally understood it. This is the part I was building toward, the number that ties everything together. Remember that spin figure from the store? 1,800 revolutions per minute, the one the young fitter called great. Here's what he never told me, and what I only learned when I found the robot test data from independent launch monitor labs, the kind of testing the sellers never show you. For a golfer swinging the driver around 85 miles per hour, the spin rate that produces maximum carry isn't 1,800, it isn't 2,000. It's somewhere around 2,800 to 3,200 revolutions per minute, paired with a launch angle up around 15 to 17 degrees. That's the window. That's where a slower swing turns its limited energy into maximum time in the air, and time in the air is carry, and carry is the distance you actually feel. I had been sold a club engineered to put me at 1,800. The optimal window for my swing was nearly twice that. I wasn't a little off. I was in a completely different zip code from where I needed to be. And when the independent fitter finally dialed me into that window, higher loft, lighter shaft, higher tee, a high launch head instead of a low spin one, my carry went from that sad 180 up over 205. 25 yards right there on the screen in one afternoon. The same 25 yards Walt had been quietly taken from me on every tee. Let me say this plainly, because it's the confession at the heart of all of this. The drivers marketed hardest to us, the low spin plus and LST and tour badged heads with the heavy stiff shafts, are precisely the drivers a senior golfer should walk right past. They're built to shine at 110 miles per hour. At 85, they strangle you. And the drivers that would actually help us, the lightweight, high launch, high spin, draw bias models, are the ones given the least glamorous names and the smallest displays, because there's less prestige and often less margin in selling an older man exactly what he needs. The high launch models, the ones with names that hint at lightness and forgiveness, the draw biased heads built to get the ball up and keep it straight, those are your friends. Those are the ones I play now. And I promise you my ego survived just fine, because nothing rebuilds a man's confidence like watching his ball fly 25 yards farther than it did last year. So think about what really happened here. The truth about spin and launch and shaft weight, it was never hidden in some vault. It was sitting in plain sight, in the physics, in the rule book, in the independent robot tests, but it got buried under 15 years of shiny marketing, under tour players who swing twice as fast as we do, under language designed to make the wrong club sound like the strong man's choice. A few honest fitters and testers kept the real numbers alive. I stumbled onto them by refusing to accept that a 79-year-old should outdrive me. And now you have them too. The next time you stand on a tee and watch someone older outdrive you, you won't wonder why. You'll know it's not your body. It's the setup. And you'll know exactly how to take those yards back, most of it without spending a dollar. I need you to hear the real weight of this, though, before you click away. This was never about you getting weaker. It was about you being handed a club designed for someone you are not, and being made to feel the shortfall was your fault. It wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. And the moment you stop buying the club, they push and start setting up the club that fits your actual swing. This game gets fun again in a way you probably forgot was possible. That's the kind of golfer I think you are. Somebody who'd rather know the honest truth than keep paying for the pretty lie. Somebody who's done being marketed to and is ready to just play better with clear eyes. So let me ask you something directly, and I really do want your answer. Go grab your driver right now and check the loft it's set to and the weight of your shaft if you know it. Then tell me down in the comments what you found and whether you're brave enough to crank that loft up to 12 this weekend. If you've ever been sold a low spin tour driver by a fitter who called 1,800 a great number, I especially want to hear from you, because you and I got fooled by the exact same script. And if you're the kind of golfer who wants the truth about your gear instead of the sales pitch, stick with me here, because this is where we cut through all of it together. There's a whole club of us now who've stopped trusting the badge on the crown and started trusting the numbers that matter. In the next one, I'm pulling apart the golf ball, and I'll show you why the premium ball you're playing might be costing a slower swing even more distance than the wrong driver did. There's a free guide I put together that lays out the exact launch, spin, and shaft numbers for every senior swing speed, and it'll save you from ever getting talked into the wrong club again. Because here's what I know now that I wish I'd known standing on that ninth tee with Walt. The distance was never gone. It was just locked behind the wrong club, and the key was cheaper than I ever imagined. Turn the loft up, lighten the shaft, tee it high, chase 2,800, not 1,800, and go take back every one of those 25 yards that were always yours. Before you go, one thing. Inside the Honest Fairway Club, I finished this video, the full driver fitting method, the spin numbers, the setup picking up right where we stopped. In there, you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. And you won't be alone. You'll belong here with golfers just like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime. Now, the driver is only half the story. The golf ball you play matters just as much. Let me show you which ones are quietly costing you distance, so you can add up to 40 more yards. It's starting right here.